Hi guys, this is Sivonnia DeBarros and I'm here with Jazmine Highsmith.
Hello, everybody.
So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Today we are presenting on NCAA eligibility, traditional rules, of course, how the rules are being changed a little bit with COVID-19, and the importance of having strategic planning as a student athlete. So I have Jazmine here with us today. I'm gonna let her introduce herself so you know who she is, and we'll get started.
Okay. So thank you for having me. I thought this was such a cool idea right now since everybody's in quarantine. Everybody's like hanging out at home. And I've had this information for a while, and I think it's important information, especially for those student athletes that are in high school, middle school, and they're looking to become a collegiate athlete. And if that's the goal, this information is for them. So I'm Jazmine Highsmith, Dr. Jazmine Highsmith, actually. I am a former Division I athlete, and that's where me and Sivonnia met at University of South Florida.
Yep.
We competed at USF, and I went to USF from 2005 to 2009. I am a graduate of Miami Northwestern Senior High School under the direction of Coach Carmen Jackson. I graduated from USF in 2009. I got my MBA shortly after that in sports business, and then I completed my doctorate of education just this past November 2019. So I'm a new doctor.
Yeah. It's all right though.
I'm trying to settle into that, but it's a doctorate of education with a concentration in sports management, so athletic administration, and I'm also the founder of Female Athletes Rock. I founded FAR, or Female Athletes Rock, in 2013, just as a platform for female athletes. I know that there aren't, at that time in 2013, this is like the emergence of all of social media, the hype of it, Instagram. There wasn't a whole lot of positive platform for female athletes, and I thought that, I could create one. And I just wanted to share our stories, the stories of women and girls in sports, because there are so many of us that go unnoticed. Unless you're on TV, no one really knows about you. So that was the purpose of Female Athletes Rock. And since then, I've kind of transitioned more into wanting to help athletes transition from high school to college, and from college to out of college, because again, sports is there, but most of us won't go into professional sports once we leave collegiate athletics. And so that's where we are now. But today, information is basically about prospective student athletes, those entering high school and they want to become a collegiate athlete, or those that are in high school now and they plan on, furthering their career in collegiate athletics.
Thank you, Jazmine. That was wonderful. So yeah, there's a lot of information that we're going to cover today, and that's why we're really just focusing and dialing in on who the prospective athlete is. But before we dive into that, let me just introduce myself to you all, those who may not know me. So my name is Sivonnia DeBarros, and yes, I was a teammate of Jazmine's at USF, track and field. I graduated from USF in 2008. Then I went on to get a master's, and partially while I was doing a master's, I ended up going to law school. So licensed lawyer, primarily practicing out of Chicago. And I focus on business, employment, sports, and entertainment law. So you've probably seen some posts from me lately about representing professional athletes, the necessity to educate them, the necessity to properly protect and guide them, so that the brands they build and the businesses that they either invest in or create themselves don't end up becoming a hindrance to them and leaving them, basically. Right. So that's been a new chapter in my life and my business, is really helping to educate and further the goals of these athletes so that they can continue to be successful and grow wealth. And so a lot of times this same concept starts at the collegiate level. There is a new book that I am releasing soon, June 1st of this year, called What Are You Sporting About? And I want you to keep that question in mind as we go through this webinar, because I love to say no matter, even if you're not an athlete, we're all sporting about something. We're all in a game to win something. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter what you're doing, what your major is, what aspirations you have at the end of the day, there's a starting place for all of us. And as you're preparing yourself to either transition to college or transition out of college into whether it's a pro sport or corporate America or entrepreneurism, you are sporting about something, and that means that you need to have particular plans and guidelines in place to help you achieve those particular goals.
Right.
So we are so happy to be here to talk with you guys today. And after this webinar is over, I do want to encourage you all to stay in contact with myself and Jazmine. We are here to help you. We are here to help give you the support and guidance that you may need as an athlete, as a student, as an individual. We are here for you. So, and we'll share our information. That way you can get connected with us and keep in contact.
Yeah.
All right, Jazzy, so.
That was good information. In addition to that, you talked about just branding yourself. And the concept, it seems foreign to younger athletes, but as a athlete going into college, that's also what you need to be thinking about, your brand and how you brand yourself and present yourself to college athletes. And later in the presentation, I have a little bit of information about that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a PowerPoint here for everybody, and we're just going to go through the PowerPoint. If there are questions that you have in the beginning of that PowerPoint, while we're going through the PowerPoint, just feel free to use the chat and ask me some questions, and then there'll be a whole Q&A session at the end.
Yes.
So the question is, am I NCAA eligible? First and foremost, most people really don't know who the NCAA is. They have an idea. So the NCAA is the National Collegiate Athletic Association, and it governs all of collegiate athletics, Divisions I, Divisions II, and Division III. It was founded in 1906 by President Theodore Roosevelt for the protection of student athletes. Currently, they oversee 1,117 colleges and universities, 100 athletic conferences, and 40 affiliated sports organizations. So the student athlete, who's the student athlete? These are definitions that every student athlete should know. The student athlete is a participant in an organized competitive sport sponsored by the educational institution in which he or she is enrolled. So as you're in middle school and in high school, that student athlete term is still used, and even as you enter college, that is what you are. You are a student athlete. A prospective student athlete is a student who has started classes in the 9th grade. So as you enter the 9th grade, you are now a prospective student athlete. So that is what you will be referred to when you go through your recruiting process by when coaches call you and when you fill out information and stuff like that. So the moment you enter
I don't even think a lot of kids are thinking about this at 9th grade. You're just like super excited.
Yeah, and the crazy part is if you participated in sports from a young age, you might know. But me, I got to high school, and that's when I started participating in organized sports. I didn't want to play sports. My coach pulled me out the hallway and was like, "You're going to be on my track team." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And so even she told me, she was like, "I'm going to get you to go to school for free." And I was like, whatever. My mom, I'm going to school anyway. So this was never a part of the plan, but these are some of the things I didn't know. Like I'm the oldest of my mom's kids, the first student athlete. So I had no idea. Like we had to research this. So, and although the information is on the web, it's available. Sometimes it's difficult to read through the information
and even to know where to start. And
where to start. Right.
Yeah, a little different from you. I was in organized sports from a very young age, which I didn't technically want to be in them, but my mom was like, "Y'all are getting out of the house." So I was in sports from a very young age, but even just transitioning from middle school to high school, I didn't know that I was technically a prospective student athlete, for collegiate purposes. I just didn't know that. Yeah.
Yes. So as we train our young athletes, if college is the goal set,
right?
And I'm not saying everybody has to go to college, but if it's free, why not? So if you have an opportunity to compete at the next level, then these are some things that they should know for sure.
Right, exactly.
So the next question is always, which division is right for you? And I never deter students from choosing Division I or Division II. Honestly, 1, 2, or 3, it's an opportunity to get a degree from a university.
Right.
Division ones and Division I is what people focus on the most. I want to go to a Division I school. I want to go to a Division I school, but is a Division I school right for you and right for what you're trying to do?
Right.
So I'm going to go over the differences of what a Division I and Division II school is. So typically, a Division I school is have bigger student bodies, and they have the largest athletic budgets, and they have the most athletic scholarships. All of the major sports conferences, the SEC, Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, and the bigger conferences, they're all Division I schools. Right. But when you look into that, you also look at, when I say bigger student bodies, that means you have lecture classes with 600 people.
Exactly.
At the Division I school, I can remember going to USF and sitting in a psychology class and being overwhelmed because there was no one-on-one with your professor. Right. It was literally me and 400 other kids with a clicker. Right. So athletes don't really understand that, because as you've gone through school, it's been you and maybe 32 kids in the class. I would say 32, 36. Yeah. And you have individualized help. In Division I schools, you don't get that.
You don't get that, no.
At large Division I schools, at smaller D1 schools, it might be, but you're still gonna have these large. You're like a fish in a pond.
Right.
So I try to, when athletes who are used to a certain type of learning, Division I might not be for you, and then you see it because they go to these big schools and they can't keep up academically.
Right.
And they have to.
Which is a huge issue, because if you can't keep up academically, part of the reason of why you're probably at the school is to play whatever sport it is that you're engaged in. I mean, it undermines the entire purpose of being there. Right. And so sometimes I agree with you. A lot of kids want to go to Division I, and I believe because they have more, they're more visual. Right, putting those players on a platform. But you need to start at a Division II, get the hang of this new type of learning, because colleges is not as traditional as you will see, in high school, or even if you went to a 2-year college. Right. Be in a classroom where professors are not taking their time so you can get it. It's here's the information, let's move on. And so it's up to you to do the learning outside of class to understand the information, and it could be at a pace that you can't keep up, and we do live by a different set of rules too, because as a student athlete, and this is why this is important in terms of going what division you want to go to, as a student athlete, you're responsible for making sure that you show up to your courses, because a part of your grade is your attendance. If you're on scholarship, if you're doing poorly in your courses, that can also, your scholarship could take a hit from that. Yep. So you definitely want to make sure that you're on cue, keeping up, making the grades that you need to make, but also you have to implement this type of management type skill set, because you do have the rigors of being an athlete as well. And don't get in trouble like we did a few times, somebody showing up late to practice, you got 2 and 3 a days.
Yes, absolutely.
Even with weightlifting, and to go to class or study for an exam, it is a lot.
Right. And when we got to USF, we were actually coming from Conference USA, and we were in the Big East at the time. So everything had changed. For they were a smaller school in a smaller conference, and now they were a bigger school in a bigger conference. And but you just felt it, like there was this immense pressure for you to maintain both the athlete and the student part of hold up your part of the deal. And it can be hard, especially if, depending on your learning style, or if a student athlete has like a learning disability or something like that. Going to a Division I school can be very overwhelming. Also, our Ivy League institutions have sports, and they're also Division I.
Right.
So that's the Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Harvard, all of those schools, they're Division I as well. And the curriculum there was going to be a lot different from attending another Division I school.
Exactly.
So then we have our Division II schools. There are almost 300 schools are part of the Division II. They have smaller student bodies, smaller athletic budgets, and they offer athletic scholarships, but they offer fewer scholarships than Division I. So say a Division I program has 20 scholarships to give away of particular sports. They may not have 20, they might have 10. So they have to piece their money up amongst all of the athletes. So a lot of Division II athletes receive partial athletic scholarships. However, it's still a scholarship because you can get your academic scholarship, you can get financial grant and aid to aid you through the rest of school. However, these schools are smaller, but I always tell people, if you're good, they'll find you.
And you can always transfer. It doesn't mean that like
you don't have to
stay there, right. And that's a part of, you know, this whole strategic planning as a student athlete. When you go to college, like, you need a plan. You need a plan for what it is that you want to do. You know, you need to have your backup plans, because we all know as an athlete, if you're depending on that to be your substance, your end all be all, you could be injured too, you know, where that will put a pin in that. So it's important to strategically plan for what it is that you want to do. If you need to start off at a Division II school, that's fine. Don't worry about that. But make the grades that you need to make outperform everyone else and transfer. Right.
No, I agree. And again, like I was saying, if you're good, they'll find you. Doesn't matter which division you went to. If your goal is to go pro, you don't have to be set on going to a Division I school. I know so many athletes, I only want to go to a Division I program, didn't have the grades for a Division I program, turned down a Division II program, and they went to JUCO and didn't even do well at JUCO. So now they home with their parents. And it starts at such a young age. We got to get in these kids' ear in middle school. Like, your job as a student athlete is to maintain your academics. I don't care how good you are. I need you to be good in school too. I need you to be able to
because if you can't maintain that, you're not going anywhere.
And it just follows you from middle school to high school to college. And then you get out of college, you haven't comprehended anything, you don't know nothing. And we don't want to continue that cycle for our young athletes. So these are a few things I believe athletes should consider when they choose a school. Location, how far away do you want to be from home? Because when you're off in school, you're off in school. Mom, some parents will, but mama can't come save you. Nobody's going to be sending a round trip ticket every month so you could come home and visit. I remember when I first went to school, I want to leave Florida, and I'm happy that I went only 4 hours away, because if something happened, my mom could get on the road and she could come and get me. And that's not to deter anyone from going and leaving the country, but you always want to consider location. Like, if something happens where I'm at, who can get to me? How fast would it be? Is there family here? If I can't get home, do I have some place to go? So you want to look at those type of things. If your major is offered, all colleges don't offer the same program. So if there's something that you are absolutely dead set on studying and that school doesn't have it, you should not even be considering them. How much scholarship money they're offering. I know for football and for like basketball, most of those scholarships are full, but for your other sports like track and field, softball, volleyball, soccer, some of those schools offer partial scholarships so they can have more people on their teams. So you may or may not get a full scholarship offer from every school, but if a full scholarship is on the table someplace else, you might want to consider that. The student athlete graduation rate. I think this is important because
that's very important.
Yes. My biggest thing is athletes going to school and doing all of this work for the program and not leaving with the degree.
Can I add to that too? And Coach McCarroll just reminded me a few days ago that while I was there and participated in track and field with USF, and I remember once he brought it up, but we actually had one of the highest student athlete graduation, GPAs, in the entire country. So we basically, our women's program basically outperformed educationally everybody in the country. That's an amazing thing, because at least parents will know, if I send my kids here, they can also participate in sports, but at least I know they'll get the education they need.
Right. And again, it's the whole thing, like they're giving you something, you need to get something in return. You're getting all this work out of me, I'm not leaving without the degree.
Right.
Especially if it's free. I remember when I had to, we were in the talks about changing my major, and I was like, I can't do 5 years because my scholarship stops in 4.
There you go.
If I can't, I need to get it in 4. If it goes beyond 5, then I have to pay for it. No, I don't want to pay for it. So you know what? I can't do a 5-year program. And then you want to also look at the student athlete support services. So what services they have for the student athletes. So we had a nice computer lab. We had
loved our athletic facility. Oh my God.
We want to make sure that the school has the services needed to support your academic needs as an athlete. So the tutoring, the one-on-one tutoring, somebody to edit my papers, just somebody to help me be successful in my classes.
And the advisors were awesome too. And really quick, before you move on, in terms of location, especially for students who may be going D2 or getting a partial scholarship, no matter where they are, you want to also factor in and talk with your parents about cost. Cost of living, because if part of you being in school means that you have to pay a certain amount of bills or food, how expensive is that going to be? Because it may come down to, and I know someone who went to a Division III school, was an amazing athlete, but the school they went to was a private college. They couldn't afford to be in the location where they were. And so guess what? Now I got to go back home because I cannot afford the living arrangements that, come with being at this school. So definitely keep that in mind, because it's just, you'll be going backwards if you can't plan to move forward to actually be where you want to go. Right.
And then to add to that, cost of transportation to and from. That's another thing, because statistically, a lot of kids that accept athletic scholarships, they come from homes that that aren't middle class, and they're poverty or below poverty. And the cost to get kids back and forth, which is another reason why the NCAA has to do their part in assisting athletes in other ways, because I can't even fly home.
Right, you can't fly home. But even think about, so I'm in Chicago right now. We're both from Florida. There ain't no trains in Florida.
No,
you are not taking the train in Florida. So if you don't even have extra cash to jump on a train to go to class, or just go get, simple things that you may need to live. That's a big problem.
And that was
expensive to ride a train here.
My mom loved Tampa because Walmart was right up the street. The shuttle took you to Walmart. The shuttle
everything.
Everything's like right there. And you have some schools that are in cities like that, and then you have schools that are not. So that's that you definitely want to factor that in. I think somebody has a question.
Is this DeAndre, our teammate?
How you doing, DeAndre?
Hey. Okay, so we're moving on.
Yes. So the reason you're here, are you NCAA eligible? So here's some eligibility basics. All student athletes must be registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center. To compete as a freshman, you must complete all requirements. Eligibility requirements can be met as early as middle school. So some kids, like when I came into high school, I already had Algebra 1 and geometry. Those credits count towards the credits required for NCAA. So there are some kids that will be ahead when they get to high school. And of course, you must be a high school graduate. So courses required by the NCAA for Division I, you need all 4 years of English. You need 3 years of math, so Algebra 1 or higher. So Algebra 1, geometry, your Algebra 2, that's 3. And you can pre-cal, calculus, you can do that. Then you need 2 years of natural and physical science, 1 year of any courses in the following subject: math, English, science, natural, physical science. You need 2 years of a social science, and 4 additional years of courses that fall in the same area. So foreign language. So in most cases in Florida, you have to have like 2 foreign languages, 2 years of foreign language to graduate. And most of our schools already
has
like
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they set you up to graduate, you already have all of those courses. Religion and philosophy. So that's at the Division I level. When we get to Division II, it kind of changes. So at Division II, you only need 3 years of English, 2 years of math, 2 years of natural science or physical science, 3 additional courses in the following areas: English, math, or natural science, 2 years of social science, and 4 additional courses in English, math, natural science, foreign language, comparative religion, or philosophy. So whereas you need 4 Englishes in Division I, you only need 3 in D2.
Right.
And then you need 2 years of math in D2 versus the 3 years you need in D1. So that's the thing that student athletes need to start thinking about at the time. So most of this you actually have to have before you graduate all 4 years. But say you have to have 4 years of English to graduate high school anyway. Say you don't, I don't know, whatever the case is, like this year, you don't get English credit because we've been out of school for the pandemic. You have at least 3 years to go to Division II school.
There you go.
Yeah. So our GPAs are like credit scores for kids.
That's a good way to put it.
The higher the better, and as soon as it drops, it's so hard to get back up.
It's hard.
And that's a conversation we really have to have with our kids. Like, it's hard. It's easy to get a high GPA.
Right.
But as soon as it drops, that F or that C or that D, it weighs so much more, and it's so much harder to get it back.
Right.
So to be eligible at the Division I level, you need a 2.3, and to be eligible at Division II, you need at least a 2.2.
Wasn't it? I thought it was a 2.0 back in the day.
Yeah, it was, and they kind of raised it just a little bit. Yeah, but they raised it a little bit. But I always tell kids the higher the better.
The higher, the better. And
so shoot for the higher GPA.
Always shoot for the highest. And I like to say it like this too, like you always want to give yourself cushion, because I do feel like kids are gonna also go through things in life, and you can't stop situations from happening. But if there's something that comes up and you end up kind of, falling off a little bit, at least if you work hard and get the grades now, it can give you somewhat of a cushion to the point where you don't fall below that 2.3, or at the minimum of 2.0. I mean, you may be out from competing if you don't have a 2.3, but at least you're not technically completely trying to start over from nothing. Right.
Yeah. And then with just the minimum, and we're going to get into it, your test scores have to be so much higher. And then sometimes you end up having to go to a junior college because that minimum is not good enough for that particular school.
Right.
Because it's almost seen as a risk. If I bring you in at this low of a GPA, you won't be able to complete the requirements to stay eligible in college, because there's a whole different, once you get in, you still have to stay eligible.
Right.
You got to have a certain amount to complete towards your degree. And so if I bring you in and you barely scraping the 2.3, I'm not going to waste my money on you.
Right.
Because in 2 years, you'll be out of here.
Right. And then how's that going to factor into the overall GPA of the student athletes who are there?
Right.
So,
yeah. So then we have our SAT and ACT requirements. So prior to COVID happening, the there was a score you needed for both, but we'll talk about the updates to that later. So ACT, I believe that all SAT and SAT score for prospective student athletes, they should have taken SAT prior to senior year.
Yeah.
Don't wait till senior year to take it.
Yeah.
And I always thought my coach was crazy. And she came to me, I'm like 15 in a ninth grade. You need to take SAT. And I'm like, no, I don't. I got forever to take SAT. And I was like, well, I just want to focus on the FCAT. You know, in Florida we have FCAT. And she was like, oh no, you need to take it, get it out the way. I took it, got it out the way, and then senior year, I had nothing to do. GPA was high, test scores was good. So the earlier the better, because you don't want to be stressed out senior. You want to relax senior. You want to give your best performance, then as long as you're worried about. So with a 3.5 or higher, you can score an 800 on your SAT and a sum of 37 on your ACT. With a 2.0, you have to score at least 1,100 and an 86 for your sum on your ACT and a 1,100 on your SAT. If you get bare minimum standards as an athlete, they may still bring you in, but you'll be an academic red shirt, and you won't be eligible to compete your freshman year. So again, the higher, the better. The higher GPA, the better. You're okay. But you also want to score high on your test, because you don't want to end up in remedial classes.
Right. Right. Because then you're taking a whole year just to catch up.
Yes, because in remedial classes, they don't count as credits. They're basically prep classes. Right. And I don't think too many schools are bringing athletes in that way anymore. I know once upon a time they used to do it, but I don't think too many of them are bringing you in to take remedial, because it's like a waste of money. I mean, you're not really on track to graduate, because you take a whole semester or two of classes that don't count towards a degree at all. Right. So that's for Division I. Division II, with a 3.0 or higher, you have to score 800 on your SAT and a combined sum of 37 on your ACT. The minimum is a 2.2, and you have to score a 920 and then a sum of 70 on or above on your ACT. So again, the higher the GPA, the better. It gives you that room for comfort. Like if I'm a bad test, which I was a very bad test taker.
Standardized test. Oh so my God.
I had a high GPA. I graduated high school with honors. And because of that, I was allowed a little leeway in my testing, because I already knew I'm a bad test taker. Like I'm gonna know everything before the test, and when I get to them, I'm just go blank.
I've always been an excellent student. And I can take, ACE exams in the classroom setting, but those standardized tests, man, take them with a passion. And the anxiety.
I didn't realize until I got older. I'm like, it's testing anxiety.
Right, it really is.
It's the anxiousness of taking this test. Like standardized tests, I just don't do well in. But there are a lot of athletes that have this issue.
Yes.
And a lot of kids in general. And as a parent, you have to also take ownership of them. Like, maybe I need to get my child some extra time to take this test, or whatever the case is. There's nothing wrong with using support services to get what you need.
And that's why it's also important to go ahead and try to take those exams early too, so you become familiar with them, familiar with the environment and just the structure of the exam. Because if you do have testing anxiety, that's something. I think we become way more comfortable with something if we kind of know what we're in for. We're much more prepared. So if you are one of those people who do have testing anxiety and you are a prospective student athlete, this is the time. Even if you're not taking the exact exam, go and take the test prep exam every year or every semester, just so that you can get comfortable with it, comfortable with the structure. Time yourself properly, so when it does come time for that actual exam, you already got a great GPA, and you can do very well on those standardized entrance exams, so you can get to the school that you really want to go to.
Right. So last but not least, have you registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center yet? So every athlete in high school, if you're in ninth grade going to 10th grade, you should already register with the Eligibility Center so far, 10th graders. And if you're going to be a junior or a senior next year and you haven't done so, this is what you want to do. So all student athletes that want to compete, D1 or D2, must register with the NCAA Center. You should register before your sophomore year of high school. Before you can take any visits or sign a national letter of intent, you have to have completed a certification account with the Eligibility Center. And you also have to have test scores on file already. So you can't even take a visit without taking care of this.
Right.
Okay, so what do you need to register? A valid and professional email address. So our students, they tend to forget their kids, and I get it, but you need a professional email address.
Right.
Basic student personal information, then you need your basic student education history, the student sports participation history, and then there's a payment. Now, I don't remember a payment in 2005.
I don't remember.
But I looked on the website and I was trying to see if there has been any change to that right now with everything that's going on, but I don't see any changes to that. But there is a payment there to register with the clearinghouse. So since we were talking about changes, COVID came in and pretty much wiped out what we know is sports. There are no sports.
Everything.
At the little league level, at the high school level,
at the pro level.
Professional, there are no sports. And we don't even know, with everything going on now, we don't even know we'll be able to start back up in the fall. I don't think that kids are going to be reporting to college in August. So there's a big question mark around everything right now. And as far as the NCAA is concerned, you know, football, they lost a lot of money with the tournaments being canceled.
Correct.
Football, if we don't have a football season, that's another loss of revenue for them. So it's a lot going on right now. But I do have some COVID eligibility updates. So for recruiting, there's a dead period. That dead period has been extended from May 31st to May 31st for D1 and D2 institutes. So in that dead period, athletes, coaches are not allowed to have any contact with athletes. College coaches may not have face-to-face contact with college-bound student athletes at this moment during COVID. So normally they could meet and talk, but they can't have face-to-face.
Right.
However, the coaches can write and telephone student athletes and their parents during the dead period and can still contact them as long as it's not in person.
So I just want to add the video. They can do the video conferencing, which is also considered a phone call.
Zoom, Skype, all those are permissible. Coaches are able to call student athletes by video to conduct tour of the campus and facilities. So like right now is if you haven't signed already, the spring is still like, I signed my scholarship after the state championship. So there are athletes that are still out there looking to get signed. And so coaches are able to call prospective student athletes by video to conduct campus tours. But coaches are not allowed to hold group conversations with uncommitted prospective student athletes. So this is very important because student athletes do have a responsibility to make sure that they maintain their eligibility other than academics. So we can have a whole nother webinar about the rules and bylaws, but if a coach gets you to break the eligibility bylaws and it's found out, you are then punished for that too.
Yeah.
As an athlete, it's important to know what you can and cannot do.
Yeah. So
for our academic eligibility updates, the NCAA has granted a waiver due to COVID, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This waiver does not require any standardized test scores for incoming student athletes. So athletes that graduate this summer and will be entering school do not have to have a standardized test standardized test score. So it saved them a whole lot if they hadn't taken that test already, or if they were looking to get a better score. You don't even need your test scores to enter this year. Students expected to graduate from high school in time to enroll in the Division I school for the 2020-2021 academic year will be academically eligible by earning a 2.3 grade average with the combined 7 courses. So English, math, and science by the start of their 7th semester in high school. So basically they cut the academic requirement down so that people could, it's right now, I don't know, it depends on the school district and the state, but some schools aren't even giving out letter grades anymore. They're giving you pass or fail. So they're allowing our athletes to use what they have basically to come into school. International student athletes expected to graduate from high school and in time to enroll in Division I or II school for the upcoming academic school year will be eligible for an automatic initial eligibility waiver if they complete at least 10 core course units before starting the 7th semester with at least a 2.3 in Division I or 2.2 in Division II. For students that want to enroll in Division II school after graduating from high school this spring or summer, the standard will be completed by 10 NCAA approved core courses, and then they have to have at least a 2.2. These standards are automatic waivers for both D1 and D2. So it's automatic, but for everybody else, that's just for our seniors that are graduating this year. But everybody else, if things return back to normal, we'll probably be going back to the same academic eligibility standards that we went over earlier.
So don't just skirt on the sidelines thinking that you're on vacation.
Right.
Do what you're supposed to do. Show up to your courses, because you don't want to use this time, as layover time to think that you don't have to do anything. You can just get into a college to play whatever sport it is that you want to play. So take this seriously. Hopefully things will get back to normal pretty soon. So you just want to make sure you can find yourself on the up and up and fall in line on your plans where you want to be, not have to play catch up again.
Yes. And I'm so happy you put the strategic planning in this because I start thinking like, oh my God, these kids are out of school where there was structure. They don't have that structure at home. So now they're home all day. Mom may or may not be home, mom or dad, because if their parent is essential, they're at work.
Yeah, they're at work.
So everybody doesn't have the luxury of doing a job at home either.
Right.
So their parent can't keep an eye on them and see what they're doing. And if you're very serious about taking your career in sports to the next level, you need to be on top of your academics. And even though there's no practice right now, you still need to be working out.
Right.
So what can student athletes be doing in the meantime? Do your research.
Yes.
Research the schools that interest you, their degree programs. This is basically like the best time to discover what's the best fit for you. Where do I belong? Where would I feel comfortable? Research the conference, the graduation numbers, and their postgraduate success, because I think it's important to know how the school supported you post-graduation.
Right.
I've graduated, I no longer compete for you, or you set me up to do well and excel post-graduation.
Right.
Because most of the time, these athletic departments, once you graduate, that's it.
That's it.
There's no helping with the transition from college to real world.
Right.
That's done. And so you can't even go back and get help for it. So that's an important thing when I tell young athletes, look into that.
I also want to add to the research part is also look into things that interest you as an individual. So we all have a purpose in this life and things that we're just drawn to that we love to do. So as you're looking into schools, when you're looking into what kind of major it is that you want to go into, think about what is it in that area, or what programs does the school have that I can also engage in, because it's important to have things outside of the overall structure that
Right.
gives, some color to your life. Otherwise,
Right.
it's just like, we're robots.
Mm-hmm.
Go to class, go to practice, go to sleep, do it all over again. So you definitely want to spend this time finding things that you can get involved with, whether it's an individual that that's doing something that you love or want to do. Start reaching out to them, start researching, start trying to figure out how they got there, because that also may help to give you a framework of what you may need to do to get to that level as well.
Right. I don't think I put on here, but networking too is a big thing. If you're in college right now, just what clubs, I'm happy you said purpose, because it took me a long time to find my purpose. And not that I love USF, love what they did for me, but there was no focus on that when I was competing. It was go to class, come to practice, compete. And so now my thing is like, you can find your purpose at a young age, but there was no focus on that. And I think once we focus our athletes on finding their purpose, even as early as high school, they'll be happier individuals when they get in college. And when they come out of college, they'll have a plan, because I know too many of my classmates that I left college with, no direction. They don't know what they're doing, where they're going. They just have a degree. It's like, so you went to school for 4 years, you got a degree. You don't even know what you want to do with it. And then it was something that you didn't want. They put you in there. So one of the keys on here is work on your communication skills. You need to be able to communicate what your needs are, and what you need from the program. As in, like, you're the only person that can sell yourself. You're also the only person that knows what you want. So if you can communicate that and communicate that to your coaches, you can find the coaches that you're talking to. You can find the best program for you. And then become a self-starter. E-learning has given the kids this generation to pretty much work on that, because when you're a student athlete, or a college student, period, you're not gonna have somebody telling you this is due, this is due.
That's not happening.
You have to be a self-starter. You have to take the initiative to get things done on your own. So this online learning piece that all the kids are doing now is very helpful, because when you get to college, it's like, here's your syllabus. See you next class. And they don't even tell you when you have due date. You have to
it's on the syllabus. Did you read the syllabus?
Did you read the syllabus? And so if your school isn't modeling that for you, this is perfect, because now the assignments are loaded in the class. You can go ahead and get started early. And I always, coming from somebody that I was a good student, but I was also like, I'll do that later type of student. Don't be a procrastinator. If they put it up and make it available for you early, just do it.
I want to add to the communication part really quick. Just in terms of networking, this was a conversation we had too about maximizing your experience as a student athlete. I mean, you are around some of the greatest people that you'll probably ever know. I mean, there are some guys that we had an opportunity to run track with who actually went pro. Some guys that we knew, we didn't necessarily compete with them in track and field, but we knew them just from being around. They went pro doing things. I mean, our coaches come from amazing backgrounds. And it's so funny how we take coaches for granted. Like, just my coach. Our freaking coach was a 3-time Olympic trial, jumper, triple jumper. So it's like, really talk to the people who are around you. Take the advantage of building and cultivating those relationships with your teammates, with your classmates, with your coaches, with your academic advisors, with your professors, because you just absolutely have no idea how those relationships can help push you to the next level later on in your life. And it's funny you say that, because I remember graduating and then getting and being on social media and like,
how come I didn't meet all these great people when I was in school? Like, oh, connecting. And it's because like I didn't go. I went to events and stuff, but I didn't hang out on Wednesdays. I didn't do stuff like that. It was always something else for me to do. Yeah. And then, you know, from January to May, we traveled every weekend.
Yeah. So I'm tired after all of that. Yeah. You're home.
So but I do think that's an important part of the college experience as student athletes. Take advantage of the full college experience. Go to events. Join clubs. I did get an opportunity to pledge when I was in college as an athlete. But there are some things that I was like, dang, I missed out on that because I didn't make the time. I'm not gonna say I didn't have the time. I didn't make the time for it because I'm tired.
Yeah. And honestly, to be frank with you, I didn't know I needed to make time for all of that.
Right.
I didn't know that was important. I thought, okay, I know what my major is. I know what I want to do. I need to go to these classes, show up to practice when I'm expected to be there, show up for these early behind morning tests, these random tests, okay?
Yep, 6 a.m. tests. I never forget that. I got tested.
Oh my God. Dude, why did I get called like every time? I'm like, dude, I don't even do drugs. I swear to God, like every time, like my name was in the pot. What the heck? But yeah, I didn't know that. I just didn't know that cultivating those relationships was important, you know, and it's a lot of people, to be honest, these last several years has been an awakening for me to understand the importance of networking and how to actually properly network. Kids not thinking about that. And so when you go and you actually build these relationships, don't just, you know, see your teammates as a teammate. Hey, I'll see you tomorrow at practice. No, talk to them. Find out what they're about. Find out what their passions are. You know, you may have something in common, and who knows? Y'all may end up rocking together years from now, creating something substantial that other people can't even fathom how you got there.
Right.
You know, so take this as an opportunity.
Right. Other things that athletes can do, they can start preparing a list of questions to ask coaches. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't ever be afraid, because this person is in a position of power. We kind of back down and just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions about the culture of the university, the team, questions about transitioning post-college and support services that they provide. Learn how to sell yourself. Like I said earlier, you have a brand to build, and it starts here. It starts in high school. It starts in college. Like, build your brand and sell yourself to these coaches. You know your ability. You know what you're capable of, and sell yourself. I'll tell athletes to prepare a stat sheet and a highlight reel. So create a cute little stat sheet with all your stats on it, best performances, age, height, graduation date, GPA, and create a highlight reel to some clean music. Make sure it's professional.
That's funny.
You can always you should be doing now, log into the NCAA clearinghouse and viewing their eligibility requirements. You can go online and request that NCAA sends you their documents. I'm not sure what they're doing right now, but they have books with all the information I just went over. They have, this is the student, the guide for college-bound student athletes. Is actually a really good tool for people that are interested in going to play collegiate sports. I have a few, and if you are interested, let me know in a personal message, and I can actually put this in a mail out to you. Schedule a meeting with your school counselor to ensure that you're on track to graduation.
Yeah.
I hate when people get to junior year and they be like, oh, I didn't know I needed that. What you mean?
Right.
You have a counselor.
Yeah.
My counselor in high school, he knew me by name because I was in there all the time. I was like, can you check to make sure? He's like, why do you keep coming here? I was like, because I need to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah, I went to my advisor. Oh my God. I think I was in my advisor's office. If not a few times a semester, I was at least there every semester, just to make sure that, you know, I had all the classes that I needed to take or whatever, because all I knew, I'm gonna tell you one thing, I was happy as heck when math was over for me.
Me too.
Like all that stuff, I'm like, whoo, praise God.
So I got to high school. I had a couple of my high school credits already taken, completed because of middle school. So it was an easy, but I was still at my counselor's office. Hey, what are you doing here? Because I need to make sure. Like, should I take this class again so in night school so I can get a higher GPA? He was like, you can do whatever you want to do. I was like, well, whatever. You can never be too sure. But that's just me because I'm always worried. But our athletes need to have that same amount of energy, especially when it comes to their education.
Yes.
Don't be good on the.
I'm sorry. Let me add to that brand part really, really quick, because a lot of people don't understand about branding, and I really it clicked for me. But as an athlete, like, everyone has a brand, and your brand is really how other people perceive you. If a lot of these kids watch ESPN or anything and see these college sports, or see other kids getting drafted, or, are watching sports news on how coaches are trying to decipher if they even want to deal with a student because they had a run-in with the law, for instance. Your brand is damaged, so you want to think about how you conduct yourself. And I always say, do the right thing when no one's looking, because you will be the type of athlete that someone wants to deal with and do business with, and to help along the way after sports, because then they know that you're just a good person, from inside out, you're just a good person. So think about that. Whatever it is that you're doing, the decisions that you're making now, you are the only person that's in control of what you do, honestly. So it's your brand, and start working and creating a good brand now, because especially if you want to go pro, your brand is your business. Yep.
And your brand is going to make you a lot of money, whether you go pro or not. I think it's also important to remember that people never forget in the age of social media. Like,
true,
everything is online. Everything. Just be careful what you put online. Some of the stuff I see, like when I was younger, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. But it's also it's a learning tool. But if you have people like me and you with other people that have lived this, and we're trying to say, just take heed to the information. Don't just, like, the blueprint is there, is laid out. All you have to do is take it and make it your own. And another thing is to continue to work out and practice on your own. Just because your coach isn't calling practice, if your coach has to tell you to practice, you don't need to be an athlete. My coach has always told me we stay ready so we don't have to get ready. And it's the mentality you have to maintain while you're quarantining. They might, say, hey, you know what? We'll go ahead and let everybody go back and secure. You never know what can happen, but as long as you're doing your part, you don't want to come back slower than you were last season, or not that. You're not, So this is the opportunity, all this downtime, especially the kids, if they have space to work out or whatever the case is, I could be doing too. If I was in high school and I'm thinking about, like, I'll probably be 2-3 days. I'll be working. Right now, because there's nothing else to do.
There's nothing else to do. Right.
Sitting in the house or anything like that. So stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Keep doing what you're doing. That is all the information I have. And so my next question is, are you ready to compete at the next level? Are your kids prepared to go into being a college athlete? Because I'm going to tell you, it's a task. It's definitely a task. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just launched a poll just so you guys know. So if you are a student, go ahead and answer those polls. But go ahead, Jazmine.
It's a task being a student athlete, and I'm sitting here now as a soon-to-be 33-year-old former student athlete, and things I know now and things that I'm preaching to kids now, I wish I had done myself. When I was in high school and when I was in college, like the whole, I practiced, but I'm not gonna even lie, I was lazy. So I always did just enough to get by.
No, I think all athletes have some form of laziness too. Like, I don't know. Do you remember I used to go in when we used to have our 30-second or minute breaks between our workouts? I literally used to go sit down, me and Josh. Like, I'll go close my eyes and like take a nap.
And so I used to tell people all the time, like, I always like, I probably could have been I could have been a much better athlete than I was, but I chose to be lazy.
I could have too.
And that was because I was choosing, you know, how I felt in that moment over what I should have been doing.
Yeah.
And so if we start gearing our children up in middle school and in high school with the mentality that, you know what, this is a business, like college athletics is a business. I am an employee, and then it just follows you outside of that. I've been a hard worker, but it comes to me when I want to do something really, when I need to get something done. Right. So I remember senior year of college, I'm like, oh, it's my senior year. We got all these freshmen. I can't let the freshmen beat me.
Yeah.
So I worked my behind off all through summer. I didn't take no breaks. And I remember when we got ready to compete, I was like, oh my God, I could have did this a long time ago and got better results.
Right.
So don't wait until that last minute to do what you should have been doing.
Right.